All right, we are a little over 3 weeks away from the Red Sox season opener at Texas. In the meantime, we're enjoying some spring training baseball. Joe Weil with you, Dan Roche alongside. And Dan, obviously you and I are not in Florida, but we're having some fun watching this team as they've played their first 9 games in spring training. And the cool thing about this spring training, Dan, is there's so many storylines to hit on. And we'll start with one of the bigger storylines of this spring training, which is Alex Bregman playing at third base. And Dan, it's been cool to see not only what he can do with the bat, we saw it in the early spring training games where he hit a home run over the monster down in Fort Myers, but also the leadership aspect he brings as well.
Yeah, I think as advertised, right? That's kind of what we were talking about as to why you would sign Alex Bregman, even though we're sitting here with 3 weeks to go basically before opening day, and we're kind of trying to figure out who's going to play third base, who's going to play second base, and everything else. But what you're getting in Alex Bregman is a guy that's been around, been there, done that, has made the postseason, 8 straight times or 7 of 8 years, and also just brings a lot of leadership. We've seen it with him going on longer bus rides, wanting to be around the kids, Christian Campbell, as well as Marcelo Meyer and Roman Anthony, talking baseball with him. And it reminded me of Dustin Pedroia, just a guy that eats, drinks, and sleeps baseball. It seems like Bregman comes in as advertised, and Alex Cora is saying basically this is what you get in him. And I think it's a right-handed bat, but also off the field. It brings a lot of leadership, a lot of questioning, a lot of just general baseball talk. And I think you and I have talked about this, Joe, and the teams that I saw win World Series with this Red Sox team, 04, 07, 13 and 18, there was a lot of baseball conversations on and off the field, guys going to dinner at night, getting together and just kind of talking the game. And I think the more you see of that, the more good you're going to get from this Red Sox team, because it's all focused in on baseball.
One of the more fascinating parts of all this, Dan, is that before they had signed Alex Bregman, there was a lot of talk about him playing second base and keeping Rafael Devers at third. However, we're now, again, 9 games into spring training, about to play the 10th today when they take on the Pirates. And Alex Bregman has only played third base when he has been in the lineup. Now, part of that is Rafael Devers. He's still working his way back after dealing with the shoulders last year, and he's supposed to make his debut on Wednesday. But I do find it interesting that he hasn't worked in at all at second base, because if you want to put him there, you probably want to get him some reps during spring training. It's a position he hasn't played since 2018, yet they've only kept him at third, obviously, where he played so many years with the Astros.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. Is if you don't get a guy reps there, and we may see it as we go along here in spring training. These final 3 weeks are going to be important as far as just trying to figure out the roster. And Alex Cora said, we got to let this thing play out. We're seeing it play out before our eyes. If you don't get him reps at second base, it does not do a body good, a baseball body good. And I know that sounds strange to fans out there, but it's true. If a guy's going to play a certain position, he needs to get accustomed to it with his body, with his hands, with his glove, with everything that comes with it. So it's a bit surprising that we haven't seen him at second base. And I think it also kind of says to us that it looks like Rafael Devers, who's being brought along slowly after the shoulder, is going to maybe start out as the designated hitter, at least to get it going here early. And we may see different things. You may see one day Bregman playing third, and the next day Devers playing third with Bregman DH, depending upon the matchup, if they're facing a left-hander or what have you. So I think it all has to work itself out. But right now, it certainly looks like it's Bregman is going to be your third baseman. And then at second base, that opens up a whole different animal as far as who's going to be there when it comes to Vaughn Grissom, who certainly looks and sounds like he's in a much better place coming into this situation, along with a guy like David Hamilton. And we know what he can do. He can steal bases. And I just think that there's a lot to look at when it comes to second base with this Red Sox team. So maybe Bregman's in the mix, and maybe Christian Campbell too, although, we're starting to see him move to the outfield a little bit here, maybe get some reps in left field in case a guy like, William Abreu is not going to be ready. So maybe we see a shifting of the outfield and a combination of Campbell and Yoshida out there in left field. So lots of things still to come here, Joe, in the next 3 weeks. And I think it makes it all exciting.
Yeah, I wanted to roll through what the starts have been at second base. Who has started second base for the Red Sox in spring training? We're going to include today's lineup as well. So Vaughn Grissom, he gets to start at second base today, and he's batting third. He's now made 6 starts at second base. David Hamilton, he has made 3. He's also made 4 at shortstop. And then Christian Campbell, who it seemed like the Sox, Alex Cora being one of these people, was sort of in his own way saying that that he was going to be the starting second baseman or a top candidate for it. He's made one start at second base. He's played in 4 games there, but just one start. And now he's making his 3rd start in left field today. So what do you make of the breakdown for the Sox at second base in terms of who have made the start so far for this club?
Well, I think it shows you the leader in the clubhouse is Vaughn Grissom. If he's healthy and can come through spring training healthy and ready to go, and Alex feels good about his bat, then it looks like he's going to be the starting second baseman, with David Hamilton being your utility infielder to start off the season. And maybe we see Christian Campbell down in AAA. We see Marcelo Meyer down in AAA to start the season. Maybe get them comfortable, get them feeling good about themselves, and then they bring them up. There's a lot of pressure on these big 3, and everywhere you go, watching the ESPN broadcast the other day, it's all the talk. They're talking to Meyer, they're talking to Anthony, they're talking to Campbell. It's not an easy thing. Remember, you got to show some patience here, and it's almost watching Christian Campbell at the plate so far, Joe. It reminded me of what Alex Cora, we'll talk about it in a couple of minutes here, had said about Ceddanne Rafaela, and how he was just swinging a lot of pitches outside of his zone. And it looked like Christian Campbell was maybe trying to do too much initially before finally getting a base hit, and maybe that'll settle him down and get him going. All these guys got to be feeling that. It's not easy. It's just simple to say, well, he's a top prospect in baseball, go play. It doesn't work that way. And even though he may have success in the big level, he may fail. So all these kids, it's just kind of a process. And I think Alex is doing the best he can to put him in the situations where they feel comfortable, batting him further down in the lineup, Christian Campbell, playing him in the outfield, getting his mind off playing defense a little bit, those types of things to kind of get them comfortable. And again, we're early in spring training, so a lot of this still has to play out.
With the big 3, though, there is obviously so much hype around those 3 guys, Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, and Christian Campbell. Jeff Passan last week wrote a big article about them and how they're one of the more talented position player trio prospects in Major League Baseball in a long time. And
which was fascinating, by the way, as to how detailed the hitting process is.
Yes, that was
baseball.
cool to look. Yeah,
right?
To read.
It was just amazing to how far it's come with spin rate and breaking ball and just everything that these kids are doing to try to help them develop and get them on track. Man, that's a lot to put in a kid's head, but it sounds like if you do it with reps, with velocities and different things that they're looking to do, it's just amazing to watch what they go through to get ready to play a baseball game now.
And what's cool too is while they haven't played in the major leagues yet, Dan, the track record in the minor leagues for all 3 of these guys are pretty good. And the caveat, more so with Marcelo Meyer than the other 2, is that when they're healthy, because Marcelo Meyer has dealt with all these injuries over the last couple seasons. Last year got shut down after being promoted to AAA with that lumbar strain. And yet when you watch him play, you're like, wow, this kid is really good. And Dan, the irony of Marcelo Meyer and the conversations around him too is that coming into camp, everybody was talking about Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell, and Marcelo Meyer was the guy that was drafted 4th overall. Like, he was the highest draft pick of the group. And again, when he's healthy, he's shown what he can do. It's been fun to watch him excel in spring training with the rest of these guys and kind of not put himself on the map, because I think he was on the map, but I just think to reinforce, hey, if he can stay on the field consistently, he's going to be a really good ball player.
And I think that reinforces himself too. So much of baseball is it's a mental game. And I think Meyer was probably coming in too saying, I got to stay healthy. That's the biggest thing with him, that he just hasn't had enough at bats in the minor league level and hasn't been able to play. So I think if he can stay healthy, then he goes on and improves at whatever level. They may call him up early if something happens to Trevor Story, which we know the history of injuries and everything else. So he's ready to go. And I think also too, when Alex Spear had an article with Richard Fitz, who's trying to make the team as a bullpen guy / starter, or may start the year at AAA. In the big leagues, it's just such a huge difference between big league pitching and minor league pitching, even on the Woo Sox level in AAA, is that a guy can start you off with a breaking ball that you've never seen before, and then throw one up 97 miles an hour up high and gets in that box for a called strike, and you down 0-2, and there you go. It's just a different animal, just how quality and how the kind of quality they face on an every at-bat basis in the big leagues. So there's adjustments that got to come on that level. And then you got to measure how long do we bring them up, give them a taste, and then bring them back down. Like, there's all these issues that need to be figured out, Joe. So, but again, it seems like there's a lot of talent nicely put together in this Red Sox camp. And that's the most important thing we're seeing, right?
Yeah, I think depth is the word, right? There's
Yeah.
actual legitimate depth with this group, and we're talking about these prospects that there is a possibility none of them start the season at the major league level. If I had to take an educated guess, I think they'll, especially if Wilyer Abreu is still working his way back from that illness. I think there's a good chance Christian Campbell makes the team and they put him in left field and get him some reps out there. But the depth here is pretty remarkable. And it's been fun to watch some of the arms on the depth side as well really shine out. You have your starters, Crochet, maybe walks wise, you'd want him to diminish or lower that total.
He got squeezed in that one
Yeah,
outing
yeah, and
really badly.
that's being nitpicky. He's got 7 strikeouts through 3 in the third inning, so he looks
Stop nitpicking.
Yeah. Walker, I'm not going to nitpick Walker Buehler though. He was dominant in his 2 innings and his Red Sox debut, 4 strikeouts. I'm excited about what he can bring this year. And then you look at some of the relievers and the way that they performed. You mentioned Richard Fitz, the fastball, it's had more velocity. And then Luis Guerrero, Dan, this dude is absolutely nasty. And I just look at this pitching group, both the starters and relievers, and think about where their stuff has gotten to. And I don't see why this couldn't be one of the better pitching teams in the American League.
Well, it's interesting too. When Alex Cora was asked again on the ESPN broadcast what he liked about this team the most, he said pitching, and he said, I love the depth that we have in pitching, and you're seeing it right before our eyes, right? Guys like Cutter Crawford probably isn't going to be ready to start the season, but that's okay. Last year it would have killed them. A guy like Bayo, if they feel he's not ready, they may give him another start or 2 or keep him down in extended spring training and then get him going in the rotation, because there's guys that can fill it in. We haven't seen Lucas Giolito yet. And then, like you said, there's other guys out there too that are kind of coming up strong and look much better than they did last year. Richard Fitz, with the work that he's done with the Red Sox pitching staff and all the equipment and the breaking ball and everything else that he's doing. Also Quinn Priester, who looked very good too. So guys that added velocity, those types of things too. And then I think a dilemma is going to be, Joe, is what do you do with the bullpen? Because you have so many good arms. You're going to have a lot of great arms down at Worcester. And then do you keep an Adam Ottavino, who comes in on a minor league contract and who looked really unhittable?
Really good.
It looks like the old Adam Ottavino. And then you got from the other side, Justin Wilson. So, how do you keep him? Matt Moore. Do you keep him? He's a roster invite, and he's free to go as a free agent if you don't keep him on the big league roster. So, there's kind of like all these guys up and down from the right and left side that finally it looks like they have a good quality of depth to start off this 2025 season.
Without a doubt. And you look at what's happening around baseball too, Dan, in this division. Luis Gil now missing 4 to 6 weeks for the Yankees. Giancarlo Stanton's hurt right now. To me, the AL East is wide open for this team. And you just look at the talent that they've now been able to accumulate coming into this year. It's looking pretty promising for the Red Sox. And then on top of that, and just to kind of round it out, one guy I've been so impressed with so far in camp is Ceddanne Rafaela. And we talk about all the outfielders that the Sox have, both in the minor leagues and already at the major league level. And this guy, 5 for 13 already in camp. He hasn't struck out yet, and he's walked a couple times as well. So I like what we've seen out of him. And to me, he's
because that was his big problem last year, at the end of last year, right?
Yeah, he had the worst walk percentage among 129 qualified hitters, and also his chase rate was among the worst as well. So. And he was still a really productive player, almost at 3 wins, 3.0 WAR. He was at 2.8. So if he can just figure out a couple things offensively, why couldn't he be a 4-win player who's extremely young and still has even more upside to tap?
Yeah, and I hope they show a lot of patience with him too, and just kind of stick him in a right field or a center field, and no matter what happens, if Abreu's not ready, they have Duran, they have Rafaela, and Rafaela is like. Man, he gets 77 RBI last year. He was crushing the ball.
Yeah,
right?
He was clutch. I always feel comfortable with him in the big spots.
Yeah, I think he's a star that's maybe overlooked because of the big 3 and all the talk. I just don't think people realize how great he was. And again, we talked about this last season, Joe, is that how many guys in the history of baseball have been able to go comfortably within a day or here, day there, next day center field, next day shortstop. I don't think we've ever seen that. We've seen players that have switched Hall of Famers like Robin Yount and others that have gone from the outfield to the infield and changed positions as they go, Craig Biggio and things like that. I don't think we've ever seen that. So I think he kind of gets overlooked as to how great this kid can be. And Jaron Duran was so good last year that everyone talked about his season that I think he kind of falls through the cracks when it comes to just how good a ball player he is and can be for this Red Sox team.
It's amazing. We've gone through this entire chat, and that is the first mention of Jaron Duran, a guy that finished.
Oh, sorry, Jaron Duran.
There we go. And you're making up for lost time. Dan, he had over 8 wins above replacement last year. He's one of the best players in the American League, and we haven't even brought him up yet because there's so much excitement around some of the other guys and what this team can ultimately be. Again, it speaks to the depth of this group, and we're a little over 3 weeks out. I'm excited about what this year could bring.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I mean, it's exciting to look at this roster and just go up and down. And the problems that they have are good problems, right? That they're trying to just figure out who's going to start the season where and when and everything else, too. What you hope now is that you don't lose guys. You know what I mean? That you lose players because of roster shuffling and they go sign somewhere else or what have you. I just hope that it all works out that way, too, because there's a lot of talent and abundance of talent that you want to keep on this roster that you're going to need as the year evolves and we go through the season. So, it is exciting, though. It's fun. And again, they're 0-0, and they may not be as good as we think they're going to be. But at least for now, on paper, everything looks like it's going to be real good for this 2025 team.
All right. It's always real good to speak with you, Dan. Excited for baseball season. Excited for some warm weather, too, so we can take off these polos that we're wearing. As much as I love repping the company, you love repping your alma mater. It'd be nice to get that warmth from Florida. Yeah,
it kind of hurts not to be down in that warmth and just walking around. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The moment you get off the plane, it's
when I'm still wearing, my winter coat right now. I'm feeling that way. So hopefully it can come soon. Dan, appreciate the time.
Always a pleasure, Joe.